Okay. It is, let me get this out of here. Okay, let's make sure we're still recording. Okay, great. Okay, well, it is about 7:03 p.m. Central Standard Time. Today is Monday, January 10th, 2022, and welcome to Introduction to Corrections. Um, few of you in here know me. My name is Richard Wright, and I will be your instructor for the next 5.5 weeks or less. So glad to see some new names show up today that weren't here last week. This is I'm excited that out of roughly 26 students, I got 5 students showing up. Trust me, that's a lot of students, and I'm happy to see so many of you guys, because I'm going to tell you something. To be honest with you, those students who attend the lectures, live lectures, will usually maximize their grade. And I won't talk about all that stuff tonight. I talked about that last week. When you still have the open house week 1. But I will remind you about the assignments. So let's get started. Let me share my screen, because we will do a hard stop at pretty close to 8 o'clock. So let me hit you up here with this. All right. And I've got to share this. That's what we got to do. Okay, now you can see it. Before you could not see it. So this is the home page that you look at. And so I have messages from students, and that's where I get my messages. There's your grade book, which I encourage you to look at. You have some grades in there. The grades that you have in there right now so far are those of you who did the discussion, not the discussion post because we didn't have one, but who did the key phrase, and also the quiz. The quiz automatically comes in. So we're going to go right to the calendar to remind you. And I go over this every week purposely. So you see, this is where we are now. Today's live lecture. Your initial discussion posts will be due tomorrow, the 11th. And your reply posts will be due Saturday, the 15th. And then the 16th, your live lecture phrase, which those of you who are here will have a head start on that and be able to put that in right away. And then your quiz, as you will know or should know already, that you have 3 chances to take that quiz before the 16th. So that means you could take it anytime you get ready. Remember though, the best thing to do is to study the material, listen to the lecture, do the reading, and then remember it's a closed book exam. And it is timed. And then your written assignment, okay? And then, that's it for the week. So we're going to talk about initial posts, discussion posts tonight in just a few minutes, okay? Now, the one thing I do always show you is how quickly this course goes. Less than a month from now, the 8th, is the last day of class. The course actually ends Tuesday, okay? So you should be aware of that. The last lecture that we will do will be for week 5 because there is no week 6 lecture. And so therefore, you won't have a key phrase to put in. But what I do is I cover the details for the assignment for week 6 as well. But keep in mind that by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, when the clock strikes next, it is 12 o'clock, which means it's the 9th, and any assignment submitted will not be graded. It is very, 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 very important for you to be aware of that. All right. So that's the calendar. Let's get back into this. So now let's go right to the announcement. Now, I did post a new announcement yesterday, but this is it right here, the Justice Studies Guide. And if you click on that, and this Justice Studies Guide is a place to go to begin research. Now, what happened is that I might have talked about it last week, but this is the new and improved one. And if you click on this link right here, it will open it up. And it gives you all the information to help you. That gentleman smiling is Dennis Johnson, the librarian. But everything from research to database to writing help to APA, even to chat with the librarian. So I got to take no thanks. Whenever you click in, that it'll ask you that. And then it will give you help with some courses, which this course is not one of them. But tutoring tells you about that. Blackboard, how to work, APA, which we constantly talked about, writing help, and then any seminars that are coming up as well. So this is a whole lot of information if you scroll down here that will help you, and you can utilize that. Remember, our goal is student success, and so we spend a lot of time helping our students. The Learning Center Coordinator is Bethany Marston, which, by the way, reminds me, she is looking for tutors. And if you are interested in considering tutoring, there are some requirements. And one of the requirements I do know is that you have to be on the honor roll or dean's list. And your GPA, of course, is higher. Just let me know. Shoot me an email and let me know, because she just asked me today if I had any students that I could recommend, and I said I would mention it tonight during the lecture. So be sure that you let me know. It's a work study program, and it's a good thing to have on your resume. I've had a lot of students that I have taught who ended up becoming student tutors, okay? So be aware of the School of Justice Studies. Utilize the library and learning information that's in there. There's a lot of information that can help you with your research, mentioned down here as well. And remember last week, I did tell you about the library and learning services guide. So you know where to find that too as well, okay? So then let's get to the week 2 announcement now before we get into the module. So if you have any questions at any time, be sure to type in the chat box. It'll pop up and I'll see it, and then I may have to slow down to go to it. So this week in the live lectures, I want to mention Module 2, Adults, Juveniles, and Criminal Behavior. We're going to talk about that. I submitted and provided for you chapters 6, 12, and 17, the PowerPoints and other material to help you to understand the module. That's for your studies. Theories impacting corrections. We'll talk about that. Incarceration and the criminal experience, special populations, adult and correction systems. And then at the end, there's a vocabulary review to help you. This tells you the time of the lecture, which you know now because you're here, and the discussion assignment, adult and correction systems, which I'll elaborate on that in a few minutes, is due tomorrow night as your initial post, and reply post by Saturday. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, your written assignment, correction systems, which I'll go over, and then the quiz, which I don't open up because it will show the questions, but you already know how it works from week 1. You know you have 3 opportunities, and that the highest grade will be your final one. So the only way I would not do more than one is if I got but just remember, you can't lose by going back at it again. Unless you have 100 already. If you have 100, why would you want to go back at it again? But the point of the matter is, if you get anything less than that, you can only improve on your grade, and you won't lose points. I repeat that. The other thing is notice all caps, pay close attention to the rubric. That is where you get your grades for your written assignments. Students constantly lose grades over that. I will be grading the written assignments from week 1 and the discussion post by midnight of this Friday. And that's the way that they'll all be graded. So be aware that your written assignments that are completed as of yesterday will be graded between now and Friday by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard, so you can see what your grades are for week 1. You'll also see comments in the rubric that I will put in there. If you did a good job, I'll just check. That means, and I always tell people to use the rubric as a checklist. And we talked about that last week, but I'm going to talk about it every week as well. Okay, and then my motto, finish strong, and my motto, adversity is a springboard to success. Many of you know what that is about. It's actually one of the announcements that you can take a look at on your own time. And that's something to let you know why I am the way I am and why I feel the way I do about my students. So let's get into the actual chapter for the next roughly 40-something minutes. So adults, juveniles, and criminal behavior. First of all, here is the written assignment. Get this clear so you understand. So now, understand what I'm telling you to do and what the school has set up for me to ask you to do. Through research, corrections practitioners learn more effective intervention strategies to work with offenders to reduce recidivism. However, it says, with this knowledge comes the realization that our correction system is not a one-size-fits-all. Because and you'll see why that is very shortly. We deal with special populations. That's how it's pretty much operating, including women, juveniles, elderly, mental illness, those with developmental disabilities, veterans, just to name a few. So now here's what your assignment is. Do not try to do more than one special population. Concentrate on one and do a good job. Do a Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders is known for doing chicken, and that was it. That was what he focused on, his main thing. Well, your main thing, if it's substance abusers, do your assignment on substance abusers, and try to pick one of these, because there's enough information in there. So what you're going to do is you're going to create what we call an action plan. What is action plan? Well, first of all, there's some resources to help you, but it's very simple. Basically, all an action plan is a plan to deal with these special populations. And so in part one, you're going to select the special population, provide an overview of the characteristics that define that special population. Okay. And then in the second part, you're going to deal with the issues that affect that special population and solutions that you can provide. So explain the proposed solution to address the issue that is involved. Provide credible sources. Good people, you will lose points if you don't provide citations in the body of the paper, not references, citations in the body of the paper. Okay, references at the end, citations in the body of the paper, APA formatted. Provide stated issues with professional language spelling and grammar. You should also provide a cover page. You should also provide a reference page. You should make sure that it is a Word document, one that I can open, because I'm going to view it to edit it, because I run all of your papers through Grammarly. And if I see that running them through Grammarly, that you don't have enough critical information, critical skills information, that's one of the skills that we talked about. It is so important that you utilize that, because what we want to do is see how you analyze your written assignment. How do you break down the issues, provide arguments and presentations. Okay, so now let's look at the rubric. Don't worry about that part. I know what you're going to say. That's why I didn't say anything about it. I'm getting ready to, I think I know what you said. Let me go to the chat. I think you said, I tried to click on the action plan and it told me page not found. That's why I did what I did. That's why I explained it. That's why I explained it and what an action plan is. Okay, they need to remove that, but that's the fact of the matter is it describes itself by its name, isn't the action that you provide. First the issues and then the resolution of the issues. How you plan to deal with this specific population. Got it? There's some things in here that they have in here that for some reason or other don't work. And I don't know why. Okay, got it. Okay. All righty. So now, but that's a legitimate question. When you click on certain things, like the action plan thing, and it says not found, return to the library answer homepage. And, so don't worry about that. Don't even worry about it. It's something that they got to fix. However, for writing help, they provide that information there, but you already know that from what we've been talking about already, pretty much here. Okay. So is everybody good with understanding when I say an action plan, preparing an action plan, what I am looking for? Okay, if you're not, let me know. But thank you for that question, Madison. I appreciate that because there are students that will say, well, they'll come to me later and say, what's an action plan? That's why I started out because I already know how this thing works here. So let's look at the rubric. Be aware that the rubric has different columns, different levels of achievement or lack of achievement. The one that I work with for you guys is mastery. I operate on that basis with all of my students because I'm the coach and you're the players, and I want you to execute the plays of success. And I want you to maximize your points. Therefore, I don't take time to discuss proficient, competence, and definitely not emerging. This is what we call DF. This might be C. This might be B minus C. But this is the column where you get AB. This is the one that you ought to read and read each of these boxes and ask yourself before you turn in your assignment, good people, or before the week is out. Sometimes students have to submit more than one, which is okay because you have unlimited chances before. And do not reach out to me and ask me when you submit your grade 1, can I grade it so that you can have a chance to do it the second time? If I'm able to do it, it happens, fine. But most of the time, it doesn't happen like that. Okay? But the point of the matter is this. I want you to use this rubric as a checklist. Check characteristics of special populations. So you know what special populations are. Okay? Exemplary characteristics, review the characteristics with thorough supporting credible sources. That means citations in the body and references at the end. By the way, if you have no credible sources, you won't even have a chance to go down here. Everything will be over here because you will have messed up. Okay. You might have a chance to get some points over here, but for these three, the biggest part of your paper, roughly, what's that? 45. That's 75. That's almost all of your grade. Okay, so you have 30 and 45. That's 75 plus 15. So that's 80, 85, 90% of your grade is in here. Okay. So then the issue that you've determined, once you've identified the characteristic of what and listed the characteristics describing the special population that you choose and research and provide information. Try not to cite your textbook as the sole source, by the way, because that's not a good thing. The deal is to do some research. And then what issues impact that special population? Thorough alignment. And then how you resolve those issues. That's it. So you identify the population, issues that relate to it, and then solutions for how to help those individuals in that. And make sure that you have spelling, grammar, and all of that correctly. Does that kind of make it easier for you to understand if you do it that way? Does that help you? Okay. Just remember, like Dorothy was told, In the Wizard of Oz or the Wiz, follow the yellow brick road. I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you the road to get an A. Okay? Just focus on getting the A. Not because you want to get an A as a grade, but because what that does is it indicates your familiarity or your knowledge about the area that you're specifically providing, which is a good habit to develop, because when you become a professional, that's what you should be ready to do. So I get you ready in school. I say this all the time, that some of my students say, Professor Wright grades us like we're professionals. Yep, not guilty as charged. And I know that student success in terms of opportunities in the future to be elevated into positions that will make you be more successful is determined by that. Okay. All right. I never apologize for teaching my students how to be excellent and how to be ready for prime time. So when you get out of here, you're ready to roll. The discussion. Now, let me say something about discussion posts. First of all, discussion posts should be detailed. And you cannot submit a discussion post. You won't even see discussion posts until you submit your own discussion post. It's what we call post first. Okay, and it says it, discussion assignment is hidden until the student posts a response. That's your initial post. And it should address the issues that are requested in here. Now, they are the due date Tuesdays, and then your reply post Saturdays. Now, let me explain how discussion posts work with me. If you are late with your discussion post, each day you lose a point. So let me give you the example. As you already know, discussion posts are due tomorrow. Initials. Replies Saturday. So let's say, for example, you submit a really good post on Tuesday. That's good. All right. By the way, I do not require citations and references, but I do appreciate them. But what I'm saying is that in the initial post, you should elaborate and demonstrate some critical thinking in your written discussion post. Your discussion post, if it's submitted on Wednesday, you lose a point. If it's Thursday, you'll lose another point. If it's Friday, you'll lose another point. If it's Saturday, you'll lose another point. If you submit your initial post and discussion post, reply post on Saturday, it's your initial post is good, you get all the points for that minus the late amounts. Your reply post, if it's good, it'll be on time, so you'll get the points. Let me tell you though something else that you should know so you understand this. This is very important. If you submit your initial post and discussion post by Sunday, you're going to get a 0, because the discussion forum ends technically at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard on Saturdays, with the exception of last week. So this is the rule that you need to be aware of, because we're on another topic after that. Now, can you submit it after that? Yeah, but you won't get points for it. But there is something that you should know. Let's say, for example, if you submit your initial post by Saturday, which means Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, you'll be docked the points. And then if you submit your reply post Sunday, you will be docked 1 point if it's of quality. So I'm actually giving you a break, because technically I don't do that, but I do that with all of my students. So students somehow say, oh, I submitted both of my posts Saturday, Sunday. Too late. Can't do it. You got to at least submit one of them within the period of time that the discussion forum exists. I do allow and appreciate additional posts because it makes the discussion forum more interesting. All right. So in your initial post, explain the difference between the adult and correction system, which means you have to do some research. And in your readings and your PowerPoints help you, but do some research. Support the selection of one of the differences. Explain by providing a specific example, including the terminology. Why do you believe the difference even exists? And then in your response post, choose a peer who described a different other than yours. Discuss whether you believe the process supported that. A post that says, good post, I enjoyed your post, I agree with your points, without elaboration on it, will lose points or get no points. The key thing is both posts should demonstrate that you actually have had some thinking, critical thinking. And that's how discussion posts operate. That is what I was going to talk about last week, but we didn't have one. So this is the first week that we have it. Any questions about discussion posts? If I see nothing come out of the chat, then that means there are none. Okay, so I'm going to move on from discussions. Let me see what she said. Was there supposed to be something where that little picture is? Oh, let me show you. Okay, you're talking about this thing here. Is that what you're talking about? All you gotta do is do this. Hit these three dots and download it. And it opens with a photo. Hit OK. It's supposed to have something here. Let's see if I have to click this. Ah, there we go. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a picture. I don't know if this is it. No, that's something else. Yeah, that's it. Let's see. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, I don't know what that is. That's again one of those snafus. I'll let them know about it, but it really is something I'm going to be talking about during the lecture anyway, about the difference between adult and correction systems. Kind of disgusting to me, but that's a good question. Yes, there's supposed to be something where that thing is, but it's not. Okay. I didn't put it together, but I will pass that on to them, and I know what they're going to say. So anyway, the quiz is the last assignment along with the live classroom. Well, the live classroom recording, that's where we are right now. Each when the lecture is over, I'll convert it over just like I did last week. Take this out, and then I'll put the new link in, and you'll be able to see that. But I also email it to you as well. But that's a good question. I can just shake my head. That's all I'm going to say. And then your live classroom, this is the last assignment. Submit your answer, to what I tell you that it will be. Okay. And those are the assignments for the week. So we're going to talk about, during the rest of this period, touch bases on theories impacting corrections first. Okay. And I will not be going through this whole thing, but what this does is that and so these different theories, the strain theory, the labeling theory, the differential association theory, the subculture theories, the control theories, these are theories that you may or may not have on the quiz. But this is just explaining. And by the way, when you do your reading, you'll get the information here. So what they did was, when they put this together, they didn't put this together for the lecture because you can't hear, there's a voice. But if you go through and pay attention to it, it will list the various individuals who are involved, and then it explains the various theories. And then, so just be aware that this goes all the way to cover each of those theories. And what they did when they did this is that they wanted to make sure that you understand there were some theories. It's kind of esoteric, to be honest with you, but we want you to know why. I will deal with the meat and potatoes of it in just a few minutes. So these are various theories that you need to listen to. And the reason why you need to listen to them is because the fact that if we went over them, it would take longer than an hour lecture, and we're not going to do that. This is part of some of the things that they put in each week's module to help you. So now let's get to what I want to really talk about in terms of the prisons themselves and the incarceration. So be aware that when a person is incarcerated, and I already told you, and you learned this last week, that corrections consists of only 4 things: jails, prison, probation, or parole. That's corrections. And so it is the root word correct. It is a system designed to bring that person to a level in life where they will not become what I call a recidivist or repeat offender, where they will find themselves back in the system. But you should be aware that our prisons consist of an overlapping of 3 different models. First, custodial. Now, custodial model, of course, does not take place when it comes to probation or parole, but jails and prison. Okay, but primarily in prison. The reintegration model. This is the idea that while a person is in the system, whether on probation or parole, but incarcerated primarily, is to prepare them to return back to society with a better attitude, so that they don't become repeat offenders or find themselves committing more serious crimes, resulting in someone seriously injured. And the ultimate goal is the rehabilitation model. But notice that they overlap, and you will discover that by the time you're through with this course, that the direction that we're in now is primarily to deal with rehabilitating individuals. And I just kind of explained each of those points. And the custodial discipline and order and rehabilitation treatment programs. So that if a person has a drug problem or an alcohol problem or lack of education or lack of resources to vocations, we provide opportunities for them while they're in the programs or while they're in the corrections programs to receive a benefit to help them so that they will have a new direction. I teach from this perspective that if you look at the clock, and you need to know this because I refer to it quite frequently. The clock starts at the top at 12. Okay, so I'm not talking about a digital, I'm talking about a regular clock. And then if you go clockwise to the right, it goes from 1 to 3. When a person is in trouble and we want them to do a 180, they will start gradually working that way. And we will go through the stage where they will start at 1 o'clock. By the time they get to 3 o'clock, then they are halfway there. They're at a 90 degree. So that means that they still have some of the bad stuff in them and can still see the bad stuff, but they are on their way heading to 12 o'clock. I'm sorry, 6 o'clock, my bad. So the more they get closer to the next quarter, which is the 180, at that point, we want them to stay at that, on that 180 degree and not continue to the next level, because you could end up getting closer to what you came from. So the key thing is if you're on 180, you're going in a totally different direction. And our goal is with rehabilitation is to get, and that's my little example, is to get them on 6 o'clock. I'm going to get them on 6 and let them work from 6. You should know that if you stay on that and go forward from there, it's like a rearview mirror in your car. You know that whatever is behind you in the rearview mirror, the further you move away from it, the smaller it gets, and then it disappears. And what that means is that it's no longer a part of you. But if you go back that way, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. How do you go back that way? By going to 9 o'clock. And then you end up at 12. Everybody understand that? Is that kind of give you an example of a way to understand how our main goal is? Does that help you? Okay, that's my own little patented thing. You probably won't hear that from any other professor. God gave me that, and I've been using it. And many students says, I never looked at it like that. Even my corrections people said, that's a good idea, professor. And so we have different levels of prison. So now we've got the experience itself and the understanding, but our main emphasis is this. All right. Now, we have different populations, like we said, juveniles, females, and low-risk males. And the key thing is to protect the public. We want to protect the public. So while you're incarcerated, depending on the offense that you committed, there's different levels of custody, such as maximum security restricts the ability to get out. That's the ones with the big old walls and the towers and the guns. Then you got the medium security that's less rigid, or where you got visitors coming and you have more interaction between the visitors and the inmates. And then the minimum, there's a whole lot of freedom for the offender and the visitor. These are low-level crimes. So the more serious offenses, which all, remember now, these are all probably felonies, but a drug issue shouldn't, maximum security is generally not the place. It's usually medium, and you work your way to minimum with the help that you get in those programs. But the key thing is to rehabilitate that individual. And notice what it explains. It says the maximum minimize the possibility of escape. The medium prevents escape and violence, but the restrictions on visitors and offenders are less. And then finally, it's almost like, how should I say, halfway house. But these are individuals who are less nonviolent offenders. The prisons are controlled by the United States government and the states. And then this just basically talks about the different things that are provided, food, clothing, housing. I always say that it is cheaper to educate than to incarcerate. It makes a whole lot of sense. I believe in the knowledge that people attain. I worked with a program called Probation Challenge when I was practicing law in a judge's courtroom where individuals qualified for probation if they didn't have a GED, and those individuals were allowed to agree that they would get a GED, and if they came back before the judge, then the charges would be dropped. What we discovered in that program, that what many of those individuals did in the process of obtaining their GED, is that they began to focus on bettering themselves and went on, and some of them got associate's degrees, and then even a few went on and got bachelor's, and at least one we know went on to get their lives cleared. The governor helped, and they end up becoming lawyers. So the key thing is to help individuals. All right. So there are some problems that are encountered in prison because of overcrowdedness. And one of them is inadequate supervision. Why is that? Because they don't have enough corrections people per the number of inmates. The designs of the prison, it's not something that an individual is thriving in most cases. Weapons are also available in prison, believe it or not. Individuals make weapons. They make what they call shanks, knives there. Guns are smuggled in. Some of them are done by the correction officers. Dealing with the housing, it's really a challenge because of the overcrowdedness, and then the close quarters. Too many people close together create problems. And so that's what this is all about. These are issues that are expected to be faced when you are in that area. Okay, so that's the prison experience in a nutshell. That's it. I'm not going to get too much deeper because it doesn't necessarily have to be. So now let's talk about special populations. And you already are going to be aware of this because of the fact that you're going to do some research on it. So therefore, I'm just going to show you a little bit. I'm not going to stay on it, but this is a little setup that's to help you. And first part is defining special populations. And it explains it right here in this first paragraph. And it talks about the fact that each specific needs are relegated for each of these special populations. So you know here that it's a term that describes a group of offenders with unique needs, issues, and concerns. And depending on whether they're juveniles, whether they're females, excuse me, or whether they're drug offenders, and there's it says we'll discuss 7 prevalent special populations. If you recall from your written assignment, we already gave you that information there. So then the types of special populations, and I'm going to go through that. You got substance abusers, and it talks about individuals commit crime. I have often said this statement. I teach drugs and crime, which will be a course I'll be teaching next term, J115. Addicts often commit property crimes to support their habits. And what people do is, that's why it's called drugs and crime, is because individuals commit crimes to support their drug habits. And they're looking for generally something to sell, to make money, to buy more drugs. So that's why it is imperative that we deal with the issue of addicts or drug addiction in this country. It will adversely affect recidivism, which is a good thing, which means that fewer people would be in the system. Uh, so there are longer prison sentences for drugs, but the key thing that we learn is that you can lock somebody up forever, but if you don't address the issue, it's like putting a person in the hospital and they have an illness and don't treat them. You keep them so many days and then let them go. We have drug courts, which I represented individuals in many times. The key thing there was basically pleading and getting help for the problem. Same with alcohol. Then we have developmental disabilities, individuals who might have problems because of their mental state. They may not understand the law. People will use them to violate the law, and I'm very gullible individuals. Disproportionately poor may commit a crime for something they need or want, just basic survival. I know of people who were, I know a young man who committed the crime of stealing a pack of gum in a store because he really wanted, he had something in his teeth and he wanted to get it out. And he got arrested and ended up going to jail for a short period of time for stealing gum. I know people who tried to steal loaves of bread to feed their family and stuff like that. Those kinds of things. Um, um, so there are all kinds of issues. Then we got long-term offenders. Okay. And then we have elderly offenders. And then there's another group of elderly offenders. The problems that have to do with individuals who go into the penitentiary and they're older. Offenders with HIV, military veterans, sexual offenders. I'm going to skip over that. So these are the special populations. And that's some of them. Okay. Now here's another part of it, and we're just about done. Adult and juvenile facilities. Now, you're going to discover, first of all, that adult correction facilities is more punitive, and that the juvenile correction system is less punitive, because the idea is that what we want to do is we don't, for example, you're not found guilty in juvenile court. You are adjudicated, and it starts with a petition, not an indictment, unless you're charged as an adult. Okay. And the idea is to help individuals to salvage them, the youth, as opposed to treating them the same way as adult. So juvenile treatment are young, and the key thing is that easily influenced by their peers. You and I know that right now much crime is committed by juveniles. Like carjacking is not generally committed by anybody but juveniles. And so what they do is they're used by people. They're influenced by their peers. Somebody flash a few bucks in front of them and they'll do whatever they tell them, such as get out and sell drugs, because they'll get less time. So less emphasis on punishment and more on individualized treatment or rehabilitation. On the other hand, the adult system, different terminology, as I said, the philosophy regarding juveniles is the belief that the youth has more promise to change. It goes to the old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's kind of like where that goes. But the adult system historically and today holds the idea that punishment is an important part. However, remember what I said, um, we are working toward rehabilitation of the individuals because we're dealing with the special groups in the adult system. And and so it says in the juvenile system, um, punishment is not so valued, but the potential for rehabilitation and change through support, mentors, treatment, and services. Incidentally, that same thing now is being demonstrated in the adults. So now here's a knowledge check that you can do yourself. I'm just going to show you which of the following is correct. Outcome of the case, formal charges, taken into custody, person charged. So which one is it right? A, B, C, or D? I already told you. A, B, C, or D? Starts out with a juvenile petition. Starts out with a juvenile petition. Petition. Remember the formal charges. Remember I said indictment for adults, juvenile petition for juveniles. Do you remember me saying that earlier? Okay. So anyway, if you go through these, you'll see the answer to that. And that's just a little something to help you out. Okay. So now this is your a vocabulary review, which I'm going to leave you with. And you want to go through this to help you get ready for the quiz. So tip, a lot of these things that you learn here will be on the test. And some of these you might not know the answer to right now because you haven't gone over the material. But you're going to learn the answer to these questions because some of these are straight from the quiz. Okay. What's highly correlated with recidivism. And remember what recidivism is. Recidivism is the opposite of rehabilitation. Need principle, risk principle. Want to try that one? Let's see. Bingo. That's wrong. Sounds like need principle because the key thing is what is needed. That's the key. And it explains it then when you go here. That's because the risk principle was selected. But anyway, that was the third question. But that's how you go through and you learn these. Any questions? Okay. Let's see if there's any other questions in the chat that I didn't. Yeah, don't worry about that. I already told you. Okay. All right. All right. Denise said, what's the code word? I'm going to give you a chance to see if you can come up with it. It's something that should be very important to you for this week's work. Want to take a guess? Ah, Denise, did you get last week? No, somebody got last week. I've forgotten who it was. Lacey got it. It's special populations. That's it. That's it. Remember, that's something very important for you to know about how to deal with this. So that's it. Notice if you pay close attention to my lectures, you will discover at the end that I'm going to let you pick out what we talked about pretty much. And but yes. So okay. So now Denise, you got it this week. Special populations. So if you give me special populations, you will get your points. Denise, Lacey, Madison, uh, Ryland, Shannon, and Tina, you could do that right now, and you'll have all your point. You'll have your points. All right. Any questions from anybody? Okay. I will see you next week. Thank you guys again for coming out and spending this evening with me. You're welcome, and I hope that everything that if you remember that clock thing, it'll take you a long ways to help you because I'm gonna be talking about that the whole time I'm in this course. All right, so I'll see you next week at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and stay safe and have a great week. See you then. Good night.